seeds every day, and I trusted the process. I knew I wasn't reinventing the wheel. People had already figured this out. I didn't need to do anything crazy. And then I got to the point where the pitch became like internalized, like I understood it. It became who I was so that I could then focus on people and not the pitch. I think once I got to that point and I just didn't give up, then it just started clicking. I had 2 sales one week, then I had 8 sales, then I had 12 sales, then I had 18, then I had 25, then I had 25 again. And it just kept growing.
Wow, we gonna level up.
Welcome back to another podcast. This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Aiden. I'm Anthony. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about more so door-to-door. In past episodes, we've talked about different prospecting methods and marketing methods too. But we're going to be diving straight into door-to-door. Now, Anthony, I know you don't have any experience knocking door-to-door, but from your experience, would you think that you could create a successful business just pounding door-to-door, nothing else?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, we've said this before. Anybody who's in real estate, who's actively producing, understands that this truly is a relationship business, right?
100%.
So obviously, there's a lot of different ways to go out there and get business. Although I have not necessarily taken the opportunity to go and do door to door myself. I can imagine that it's obviously a really good form of prospecting. I would assume solely for the fact that you get the opportunity to connect and engage with, people one-on-one, face-to-face, right? I feel like there are a lot out there that can win just through cold calling. But, I mean, again, it's harder. I think it's easier for people to just hang up the phone. They don't really care what's happening on the other side.
Yeah.
Right? Where I think when you're in person, I would assume it's a lot harder
to tell
easier.
you no.
Exactly, right? So I don't want to say it's easier for the agent to necessarily do it, but I just think I would assume there's a higher conversion rate there. And the opportunity to just see people, face-to-face, smile, see them, move and talk and, their hand placements, things like that. I mean, I can imagine that plays a huge role in it. So I've never done it, but I highly respect those that go out there and hustle and do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then I've dived in a little bit into it myself just recently. No deals close from it thus far, but I have to say that talking to people there versus talking to them on the phone is a whole different ballgame. Again, you're building more rapport because they get to see you, your facial expressions. You get to convey a little bit more of your personality. I know there's a lot of haters out there that do not like the idea of door to door, and I think it's just because they're too afraid to do it themselves.
Yeah, they're projecting their insecurities is really what it is.
But regardless, I mean, you can't hate the results. And I may not have any results, but I know someone who definitely does. And that's why we brought in the expert himself today to talk about his experience door to door. Welcome in, Jeremy.
What up? What's going on, guys?
What's going on, man?
Dang.
So just real quick, I want to introduce, this is Jeremy Davis. He is head of D2D. I think him and his partner, Dwayne Richens with EXP, they run a coaching program right now, and they're also growing their team to crazy heights. I'm a part of their sales team as well. They're doing amazing things. Jeremy, real quick, if you want to remind the audience, how many homes did you sell your first year knocking door to door?
Yeah, so my business partner, Dwayne Richens, sold 89. I sold 75. So he got me by just a little bit.
He says it with such I only sold 70.
Only 75. Gosh, what a number. What did you do before real estate, man?
Yeah, so it's crazy. My story is a little wild. So I used to be a religious professor about 15, 16 years ago. I wasn't making a ton of money. And I had a friend that invited me into door-to-door sales. He's like, hey, come double your income in 4 or 5 months. I was like, sure, why not? So I got into it and I tripled my income in 4 months, and I was hooked from day one. Did that for 12 years, got into real estate 3 years ago, and obviously had a lot of success right out the gate.
That's awesome, man. So, I mean, whenever you were convinced to hop over into door-to-door, your friend obviously convinced you. Was that something to where you saw his results and you wanted a piece of the pie, or?
Yeah, so he took me to dinner and we talked about just the competition aspect and going out and eating what you kill and really getting paid for the value that you provide back to the company. All those ideas really connected with me. And I was like, okay, I can see what you're saying. It's essentially teaching in different classrooms, right, in front of people on their doorstep. I can do that. I love that. I love the idea of making more money. He was making well into the 6 figures, and I was making about 45,000 as a professor in religious studies. And I was like, okay, well, let me go give this a try. So I convinced my wife. We'd been married for a couple months, went out, did it. And I got my butt handed to me for the first 3 weeks, absolutely trashed. It's embarrassing to say, but I was crying on the street corners and I just could not figure it out until something finally clicked. And then I became one of the top salesmen in the company. And then fast forward 12 years, I was one of the top sales reps in the nation. And then I had a friend that introduced me to real estate, and 1 + 1 = 2 at the time.
Awesome, man. What clicked for you exactly? Would you think it was a mindset thing?
Yeah, I think it was more so a disconnect of, I have a product and here's this homeowner, and I need to logically present it in a way that they're going to want to purchase it. And for some reason, I was so worried about the pitch, and I was so worried about the presentation and what house to knock. And so I would go to his apartment that late that night or early in the morning, and we would role play and practice, and I would study. I had a really solid morning routine that was built into place to help my mindset. And then after a while, I think it was just the law of the harvest, right? Like I was just adding seeds every day, and I trusted the process. I knew I wasn't reinventing the wheel. People had already figured this out. I didn't need to do anything crazy. And then I got to the point where the pitch became like internalized, like I understood it. It became who I was, so that I could then focus on people and not the pitch. I think once I got to that point and I just didn't give up, then it just started clicking. I had 2 sales 1 week, then I had 8 sales, then I had 12 sales, then I had 18, then I had 25, then I had 25 again. And it just kept growing and growing. And then it became fun and more of a competition. And I didn't even know how much money I was making at that point. It was more so I just wanted to outpace everybody and see how far I could push. And I think that's why when you say, you laugh at 75, to me, I still don't even think that's a lot, because Dwayne beat me at 89 and I should have got 100. So I look at it, I'm just trained to look at it in a production, in like an evolution of sales, more so just than money or transactions.
Absolutely, man. You have an incredible story. I love it. You're so humble about it too. I think that's what's amazing. You can definitely tell that you took some time through that process. Something you talked about was the pitch, right? And how what I really loved that you said about that was how you internalize it. I think that's a big thing that a lot of agents, especially those that are starting out, they miss, right? We constantly hear agents who are considered struggling in this industry to say the same thing, and that's oh, I feel like I come off as a salesperson. I feel like I come off too salesy. That's something we hear from agents over and over and over again. And I think it's for that exact reason. They haven't yet internalized it, right? They've thought too much about the pitch and not enough about the value and how we're actually going out and serving those that are needing what we do. So I'm just curious, I guess, I mean, you kind of went into it, but what was it? I mean, what did you do to internalize it, I guess, right? Like, you obviously came to that understanding of, hey, this is what I need to do, but what did you do to actually go through that process? And if an agent were to come up and tell you, right, hey, I feel like I'm coming off too salesy, or I'm scared of coming off too salesy, how would you express it to them? How would you tell them they need to fix that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anthony. So for me, I think the reason I've done really well in real estate out of the gate is there's a lot of correlations between the door-to-door space, like alarms, pest control, solar, roofing, and real estate. One of the common themes is role playing and practice. The culture in door-to-door outside of real estate is practice. That's all you do. You role play with the group 5 or 6 times in your team meeting. You role play at night. You role play in the morning. You would go and shadow top producers, and the top producers were totally okay with it. And so you would go out and shadow them. They would let you record them. And then when I was driving to my area, I would listen back to it. And then I would practice in front of the mirror. I used to have a picture of someone on my mirror, and I would practice the pitch to them. And then on the back of my door in our apartment building, I'd had all the objections. My wife would say it out loud, and then I would say 3 ways to overcome it. I was consumed in like Grant Cardone, all his books, and Brian Tracy. And I just was trying to have it be internalized. Like, let me memorize the flow. Let me memorize the words, the tonality. And then if I don't give up, it'll come together. And then I can focus on listening to the prospect or the client. So then when I got into real estate, it was the same thing. Here's this foreign pitch. Here's a foreign topic of Lending, I had no idea about. I didn't know anything about real estate. I hadn't invested myself. And so I did the same thing. I went out into my community. I researched top realtors. I went and shadowed them for a couple days each. They let me record them, and then I would replay it, and then I would write it down, and then I would practice it. And then when I got my license, I would get on the phone, I would go knock. And then it just was like this continuous grind of let me figure this out. I would call agents up in Salt Lake, in California. We'd role play together. And it just was this mindset of I'm going to figure this out so that I can then listen to my customer. Because right now I'm so focused on the flow of the script. In order to get out of that, it had to become second nature. In order for it to become second nature, I just had to put in the work.
I think what's so admirable is that it almost sounds like you're doing more work in a day than a lot of agents right now do in a month. And I think, it goes to show the difference between work ethic and being lazy. And then so obviously you jumped in there with full work ethic. I mean, you were steaming through your nose, your ears, everything. You were a bull. You were ready to conquer, to attack. And, I'm curious is that obviously you jumped into real estate and you didn't know the lending side. There was a lot of foreign territory, if you will. It was almost like starting from ground zero, but you also still had the identity and basics, fundamentals, if you will, of door knocking and door to door sales. How quickly were you able to find success in real estate once jumping in?
Yeah, so my first month in real estate, I had 7 people under contract right out of the gate. And then right after that, it was like 5. I took almost a month off because I couldn't I couldn't handle everything. I had a mentor, I had like a TC, and I had a listing assistant. There was an office manager that I had a showing assistant. So I had a lot of that because I knew that that's what my mentor coached me on. I then picked up a coach right out of the gate because I knew that from door to door that there's a principle of don't reinvent the wheel. People have already figured it out. So go ask them. Usually those at the top want to tell you. People at the bottom just don't want to ask. It's more an ego pride thing. So I knew, like, getting right into real estate that, okay, I have the grind. I'm willing to out hustle anybody. And here's this realtor that was my mentor that was selling 200 homes a year. So I just latched onto him because I realized really fast that everybody else I was shadowing, they were very inconsistent, or they had prospecting methods that weren't, I couldn't duplicate. I couldn't replicate. That they had been in the industry for 20 years. So their COI database was huge. Well, I just moved here and I didn't know anybody in town. So I couldn't do that. But this guy was prospecting for 5 hours a day. He had a rock solid morning routine. He was practicing twice a day. He let me shadow him, record him. So I'm like, I'm definitely going to attach myself to him and just copy and paste. And so he got up at 4:15. I got up at 4:15. He had celery juice. I had celery juice, and I hated every second of it. He had a cold shower. I had a cold shower. He had a probiotic. I had a probiotic. He went to the gym at 5. I went to the gym at 5. He role played at 6:45. I role played. And then literally all day to a T, I replicated his entire schedule. And then when it was time to grind, I just outworked everybody. I mean, I put someone under contract, I think at like 11:45 p.m. at night. So it's the ability to copy and paste, don't reinvent the wheel. And then if you just work, you'll have the success right out of the gate.
No,
or at least it increases
obviously. Yeah, that is true. You can't control everything. It is, for the most part, out of your control. You just have to do what you can do. You can only do so much. It's about their response, of course. Obviously, I mean, it sounds like you had way more success than most people. I mean, I guess besides Dwayne, I guess he beat you. But
He's like, no.
with that being said, I'm sure some of the challenges you have are actually maybe even what some realtors who've been in the business 5, 6 years are probably having. So in your first year, what kind of challenges did you have that were unique to your situation?
Yeah, so I had a lot of success right out of the gate. I had 25 deals my first 6 months. I was rocking and rolling. Then on the 7th month, we found out that my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and we thought he was going to, pass away that January, and we had days left with him. And then he ended up passing away 9 months later in September. And so I would go down to Vegas and come back, and go down to Vegas and come back, and go down to Vegas and come back. And I literally was working every other month, and I still put in 50 deals to get 75 my first year. And I learned that in this industry, there are always going to be like these massive trials that either come from life, from business, from family or friends, or things that are thrown on your plate. But if the goal is big enough and you know why you're doing this job, then the how that gets so complicated sometimes will be really easy to figure out. Like that was really hard with my dad and really emotional. And I was spiraling through like depression left and right. But for me, I knew that when it was work time, that it was locked in, focus. I had a goal. I needed to hit it. But then I could be with family. And that all came from like weekly planning, habits of nightly planning, morning planning. I just kept the goal on a radar, and I knew if I was falling behind or moving forward. And I learned that from door-to-door sales. If I was behind on my goal, I went out early the next day. If I was ahead on my goal, I still went out the same time the next day to keep on pace. And so in real estate, I think a lot of realtors struggle with this, is that life happens and they don't have enough flexibility built into their schedule to like consume the life, internalize it, breathe, and then move forward. It like rocks them off their chair, and then they can't recover because they don't have like a nightly planning session, a morning planning session, or a weekly one to like readjust their focus. I always say, one of my mentors for like the longest time, his name's Jeff Mendez. And he always said that the bigger the why, the easier the how. Manage your systems, not your emotions. The emotions in this job are wild, and the emotions of life are wild. But if you have really good systems that you honor your word and you follow through with them, then those systems will always check yourself to make sure that you're on pace for whatever your goal is.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. That's inspiring. That really is. I mean, it just goes to show to double down on your mental adversity on top of your work ethic, man. I mean, what are you bad at? But regardless, I know
Don't ask my wife that.
what a lot of people, huh?
Don't ask my wife that.
Well, one thing I want to jump in and ask is I'm thinking, as agents are listening to this, right? I mean, it's inspiring, it's motivating, right? And I can already hear the things that like some of these agents who are potentially new are thinking, like, oh my God, he just like changed his whole life, like he just at the snap of a finger, it was just all different. It was all over. He just did everything somebody else did. And I'm sure in some way it felt that way, but I'm sure it really wasn't that way, right? It's always easier to see what's happening. We always think the grass is green on the other side, right? But that's just because they're watering it. At least that's what a mentor told me, right? It's only green on the other side because they're watering it. And so I guess my question for you is, there's a lot of growth through that. And I know that that's probably a story that could go on and on and on and on and on. But, for you, like, I mean, what was you've been doing this now for a while? When you first decided and those switches started taking place when you were doing first started door knocking, I mean, what was the process like? Was it instant, right? What did that look like? How many challenges were you going through? You said you were drinking what you said celery juice or and you hated every minute of it, right? But you did it. You took action. You went through it, and you were looking at the bigger picture, like you said. The goal, right? The why. So I guess I'm just curious for an agent that's jumping in going, oh my God, there's no way I can do all that, right? I mean, they've got to take action. They've got to do it at the end of the day. But I mean, what kind of words do you have for an agent who might feel like, holy crap, that seems like a lot, you know? All those big changes personally to get to where they want to be in business.
Yeah, that's a great question, Anthony. I would say that the idea that it's hard, that it's a lot, is totally valid. And you can't avoid that feeling or suppress it. You have to like sit there and think about that and let it process. It is a lot. It's very hard. 90% of realtors fail the first 2 years. And the realtors that make it, to me, they're the ones that are humble enough, that are willing to put their ego aside and realize that this isn't an industry that's been going on for 4 or 5 years. People have been doing this at a high level for years and years and years, and they'll continue to do it for years and years and years. So that almost brings a reassurance to me that I can enter this industry. I can find someone that has a replicable, like a process that I can duplicate. And then I just need to be humble enough to copy and paste. And that brings a lot of reassurance, because if that wasn't the case, then the anxiety and the overwhelming like beast that real estate is, honestly, would be too much. And I think more realtors would fall out. But you can easily now with technology say, hey, I want to go through YouTube, and that's going to be my bread and butter. I want to door knock. I want to cold call. Whatever the path is, there are people that are crushing it. So you just have to find the way that speaks to you. Be humble. Reach out. Like I do free consultations all the time. I did a 45-minute one with a team out of Texas today that just were curious about door knocking. They reached out, and I did it all for free just to show them how it's done. You just have to be humble enough to go and ask someone, and then just copy and paste. Because if you're copy and pasting it, then those little tiny wins every day is what builds the self-confidence, and then you can move forward.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I'm glad that you say, those little pieces there and how they kind of add up and get you where you're looking to go. Because I think, we're in a society and a time now, and we've been now for a while, where instant gratification plays such a huge role in our business and in our personal life. We feel like if we're not getting the results right here, right now, even though we just started, it just must not work. So no, I think I agree with everything you've said, and yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think even to kind of make the point of it is, I know I always hear a lot when people are talking about scripts and stuff like that. And I know especially with you guys, you don't offer a direct exact script for other door-to-door salesmen to follow. Because truth be told, there is no script. It is questions. But I'll let you get into that a little bit later. It's funny because everyone, like he said, wants the instant gratification. They want the results now, but it's not that. You have to put in the time, the effort, and it is going to take time. And sometimes it's going to take longer than this person who had success instantly. But that's just the name of the game. You got to be willing to push through. It's all about your mental toughness. And I know, even though I just talked about how you can't copy exact and expect the same exact results right away, I do know a lot of the audience is curious about your strategies and how you go find the homes to knock. What homes are you finding? What homes, I guess, who are you prospecting? What neighborhoods? Who do you go after? Is it FISBOs, expires that you're knocking, or is it just like circle prospecting?
Yeah. So back to your point, I think that you can get pretty dang close to copy and pasting someone and have a similar success. Because even if you look at like Steph Curry or Tom Brady or LeBron James, they have systems that if you just replicate it, you can have similar success, or at least set yourself up to have the highest potential to replicate it. So for door knocking, the difference between door knocking and prospecting on the phone, cold calling, is when you cold call, I can circle prospect an area, just listed, just sold. Like I've been to the Mike Ferry trainings. My mentor was trained by him and is trained by him. So I'm very familiar with that world. That works. But when I use a Mojo or a Vulcan 7 or something, there's literally no way to say, I'm going to call that house and they're going to pick up. It's completely blind. But when I door knock, I can almost with 100%, 99% guarantee that that person is home and that they're going to answer and that they're most likely to transact. Why? So when I pick an area, I want to be somewhere where there's a lot of volume and activity. Well, where does that volume come from? It comes from areas where people only live there for a year, 2 years, 3 years. So what are those areas? They're townhomes, they're condos, they're small single family homes where the square footage is tight, the bedrooms are tight, and the backyard's not tight. They're going to have a baby, they're going to get a dog, they're going to have a promotion. And so they're going to live there, love it, and it's just going to get too tight. So all the time with realtors all over the nation, they'll reach out, and these 10-minute, 15-minute consultations, I'll pull up their area on Zillow and we'll walk through the same thing. Change the filters, square footage, type of home, year built, bedroom, bathroom. And then your map, what happens is your map gets smaller and smaller. And when it gets really small, you start to have these pockets in your neighborhood or in your area that you're knocking. And that area right there in the past 90 days has 4 listings, 3 pendeds, and 5 closed. that means that area, for some reason, when people buy those homes, they're moving often. So I'm going to go there. When I'm there, I'm going to do something called spot knocking. You do not want to knock door to door to door to door. That's probably the biggest mistake that most realtors going door to door make, because when you start a day knocking, it's essentially like an emotional tank. Every door you knock and no one responds, what does that do to your willpower and your mindset? It kind of squashes it. And then you do another one and it squashes it again. Well, now you've only been knocking for 45 days, your tank is super low, and you're like, this area sucks. I'm going back to cold calling, or I'm going to go back to social media, right? But if you knock the houses where they're home by what it's called spot knocking, looking for signs of life, then I'm going to knock 25 doors and I'm going to talk to 23 or 24 people. So what is spot knocking? Spot knocking is looking for signs of life, signs that are telling me that they're home. So 2 cars in the driveway. If there's only 1 car and the spot is missing closest to the door, the decision maker is not home. The decision maker will always park closer to the door. So I'm not going to knock that one. If both cars are gone, it's kind of creepy, but I'm going to look on the driveway to see if tire marks go in the garage. If they do, that means they park in the garage. So I can knock that one. I'm going to listen for kids. I'm going to look for open garages. And you're basically just walking in the street looking for, okay, they're not home, they're home. Okay, they're pulling in. I'm going to loop back. I'm going to come back to them. And then you're just going to stay put. Because in the world of door-to-door sales, every street you knock, it changes every 30 minutes. So by the time you get to the end, you're going to turn around and then all of a sudden that car's home, that garage is open, 2 cars down there, completely new street. So a big error that a lot of agents make is that they'll go through a neighborhood, knock every door, burn out, go way out here, and then they're like 5 streets over, and then everybody's home and you're missing them. And so you have to stay put. I advise to only knock 4 streets at a time. That way you can stay there for a couple days. And then every day in the MLS, in my morning routine, I'm looking at new listings, pended or closed off of activity. And I'm going to look at the areas that I like knocking. And did any of those areas have activity over the night? Oh, that one's got a new listing. I'm going to go there. And then I'm just going to circle prospect through door knocking for the next couple days, because I want to be the one that is talking to everybody that is thinking about their neighbor that just listed their house. Because if you don't own a home, neighbors talk about neighbors. When a sign goes up, everybody's talking about it. We're all guilty of it. And then you think, okay, well, what's their house selling for? What would mine sell for? And 70%, I think there's a national study that 70% of people use the first agent that came to them. So I want to be there first. So that's kind of how I pick area, how I stay there, and then how I can essentially milk it as much as I can.
It's valuable. That is really valuable. That's gold right there. Now, whenever you do find a homeowner that is home, whenever you've done your recon and you've licked the ground and smelled the air to see if they're home, what are you saying to their homeowner when they open the door?
Yeah, I love the phrase recon. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, so it's super simple. There's literally no script. Anyone on YouTube that says, hey, buy my door-to-door script or send me your email for it's just not true. Like when you're face to face with someone, it's essentially public speaking. It's your ability to mirror and match, your ability to tell jokes, to gain rapport and trust. It's your ability to listen to them, to use your facial expressions, your hands. You could probably see I do it a lot just from door knocking, but that's what matters, not the script. The script is super simple. Hey, Jeremy with EXP, sorry to bug you. I'll be really quick. Did the neighbors tell you he's coming by? Oh, no. Okay, cool. Well, so-and-so just listed their house. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath. This is the home, 4 houses down at the red door. Do you know anyone that's looking to buy that? No? Okay, cool. With the market being as crazy as it is, have you thought about buying or selling, investing in real estate? And then you listen. And then it's your ability to ask questions. What are your thoughts on the market? What are your thoughts about rates? When you bought this house, were you going to be in here 2 years? Is this your forever home? What would it take in order for you to upgrade to the next house? Those questions come off of your ability to listen to them, to watch their body language and mirror and match. That's the hard part. So when I pick up clients in our coaching program where I'm doing these free consultations or talking to people on our team, it's always, hey, go read the books about body language, about people skills, about listening. Both focus on that. The script is super simple. You're just literally introducing yourself and telling them why you're there. But you need to learn how to listen. There was a guy on our coaching program. It took him 4 months to slow down and be able to listen. And then once he did, he took off. He put like 3 or 4 people under contract that month and then put 3 the next month. And the kid is just like on this upward trajectory, but it took him a long time to learn how to listen.
I love it. I think it's good. I mean, I'm like thinking about this actively. I think, one of the common, I don't want to say objections necessarily on the agent side, right? Is and it's funny because I hear this all the time. It's the same thing with cold calling or any form of prospecting for that matter. Is their fear of what they think that I guess the prospect is thinking of them, right?
Yeah.
And they're always the first to say, "Oh yeah, they didn't want to talk to me, or they weren't interested, or they weren't this," but that's not really the case. It's typically I didn't think that the prospect was interested in what I was saying, right? And so it's always the internal battle that we're playing with ourselves when we're doing these things. So I guess I'm just curious, let's say you walk up to a door and like you said, it's all about mirroring and matching, right? For a newer agent that takes time, right? That's a skill that's got to be learned. For some, it's natural, but ideally, we get better with time. So I'm just curious, for you, if someone doesn't seem like they're interested, do you just walk off and say, okay, thanks, and take off? Are you continuing to ask questions, but in a way, again, mirroring and matching, right? Asking additional questions. What does that typically look like? And I'm sure it's different, right? Like depending on the case, but ideally, would you tell an agent, oh yeah, if they're not interested, just move on? Or do you continue to poke at them a little bit more and see what you can get?
Yeah. Now we're getting to the good stuff. This is the good stuff. Okay, so a few things on this. So one, my mental game is super sharp. So as I have 4 things I tell myself the second I hit their driveway as I'm walking up. I am a good person. I love people. They will love me and I will help them. So I'm coaching myself to put myself in a good mindset before I even knock their door. So that's number 1. Number 2, you need to understand that you're a pest on the doorstep. You're a guest when you get inside. You're bugging them.
I love that.
You're bugging them, right? They're watching TV, they're with their family. And I get that, like, I'm the professional, they're coming kind of into my realm, into my office, but I've got to earn that respect, right? I've got to earn that trust because I'm a guest, right? When I get inside, but on the door, I'm just an annoying, I'm not a kid, but like I'm an annoying person. They're just wanting to kick off, right? So that helps my mindset quite a bit in that regard. Concerning like, what do I do if they're not interested? I always give people 3 outs. I want you to like really tell me no 3 times. So I'm going to keep going in the pitch until you tell me, no, this is, you're going to be here a while. If I get to that point or they're just like straight no, then honestly, I get a ton of business from referrals in the neighborhood. So I'm going to simply say, hey, look, I totally get that moving, buying or selling really isn't in your cards the next 12 months, but you know your neighbors better than I do. Who do you know in the neighborhood that either just had, and this is where I'll prime them, had a baby, a new coworker that's looking for a home in the area, a renter that might be wanting to upgrade. And then let's say you tell me, I can't think of anyone. So tell me I can't think of anyone.
Can't think of anyone, Jeremy.
Cool. What about family members, church groups, the gym, anyone that's looking to make a move here in the next 12 months? Tell me you can't think of anyone.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone.
No worries. No family, really? No one you've talked to in the neighborhood?
I love it.
I'm going to go through it 3 times. It's really weird, but
Right.
I'm going to keep pushing them because psychologically what you're doing to their brain is when you first ask them, they're obviously going to say no because why? You're a pest. They're trying to kick you off their doorstep. But now it's like, no. I'm trying to talk to your brain. Let's pull out all the filing cabinets and let's pull this down so that you can then really figure out who you know that you need to direct me to. Okay. And then they'll tell me, yeah, go talk to so-and-so. Great. Who else do you know? Who else do you know? And then I'm just going to like just drain them of referrals. And then I'm going to go talk to so-and-so and say, hey, your neighbor over here said that you were looking to upgrade in your home. This is a beautiful home. Why in the world would you want to do that? Devil's advocate. And then I kind of go in from there. So don't bounce too quick, but also be really smart to gauge on motivation. You want to work with people that are motivated to buy, sell, or invest. If you catch on really quick after the 3 no's that they're a 5 or below, time to stop. Now get referrals.
I think that's great. And I think what I love so much about that, and it's super, super key, is you hit them with who do you know versus do you know anybody, right?
Yeah.
Who do you know? And it really starts to, especially when you start to, like you said, prime them and you're asking them, anybody from church, anybody from school, anybody from this, XYZ, right? You're really trying to put them in that position to think, oh, damn, do I know anybody? So I think that that's key. And that's, NLP right there, right? Neuro linguistic programming, that's getting into the head. But I don't think a lot of agents understand that there's a huge difference between that, right? And asking who do you know versus do you know anybody? So no, I think this is complete gold, man. I think this is great. And I love that you go for it 3 times, right? You're gonna wait until they tell you no, 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 no. No, that's awesome. So I guess the last question that I personally have is for you. When you talk about you ask them these questions 3 times. Really, the thing that you end with is asking them who they know, right? If at that point they don't know anybody, you've asked 3 times, they've gotten to that point, they don't know anybody. Are you walking away with contact information of any sort? Are you looking for anything from them at that point? What is your next step? Is there anything to follow up with, or are you just kind of going?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a big believer that I'm not in the data collection business. I'm not here to collect phone numbers. I want now business. I want people that are going to purchase or sell or invest now, but I'm also not dumb. I know that people don't make this decision overnight. And it's for me, when I transitioned from alarms to real estate, that was the hardest thing for me was in alarms. I can get you from a zero. I can get you from super mad, not wanting to buy one. And now you bought one and my highest package. So I was really good at that. And in real estate, you can't really do that. You can't get someone that just bought this house, loves it, they're at a 0 to go to a 10 and sell. It just doesn't happen. So I hunt down the now business, but I also have a CRM. My business partner and I have a new app that we're coming out with that's going to blow everyone's mind. Right now, there's a current app that does some of the qualities, but it'll mark the entire neighborhood. I can pick all the houses. It'll populate the tax information. I know their name, address, phone number, credit score, how long they live there, and if they're buying or if they're owners or if they rented. So I have a lot of data. So at the end, if it's a good conversation, if they're going to buy, sell, or invest in the next 45 days, which is my A category, the next 3 months, my B category, the next 6 months, my C, and the next 12 months, my D. I'm going to label that in my CRM, like B, C, or D, or A. And then I have a drip campaign that just starts, that just goes off. And then once a quarter, I'll do a client event for all my clients. And honestly, that's kind of it. Some agents, I think, focus too much on the follow-up, don't focus on the now business, or they focus on the now business, don't do the follow-up. You kind of need a mix of both.
Well, yeah, and one thing I wanted to jump into, obviously, we just talked about so many agents right now are focused on the now business. Follow-up is important, and I think it's both to kind of have a mix of both. One without the other is kind of like, you need them both in tandem, almost like the synergy with it. One thing I wanted to talk about is earlier you mentioned kind of replicating your mentor's routines all the way down to drinking the same celery juice as he was. I wanted to get into your cutthroat routines. What does Jeremy do? What does your routine look like? I know it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's super boring, but this is it on repeat. So I wake up at 4:15. I immediately take a cold shower. I, no joke, have to pump myself up every day. It's, but I have a timer. It's like a digital timer, and I just set go for 45 seconds, and I got to be in there for 45 seconds. Then I get out. I get dressed. I drink my celery juice. Celery juice is really good for taking out the inflammation in the body. Without inflammation, your brain can focus longer throughout the day. So that's literally why I do it. And because he did it, and my wife says it's good. So I do that. And then a probiotic. The probiotic's going to, again, help my gut so that I can focus more throughout the day. If you have a leaky, not good like stomach and your gut's all over the place, then you get tired throughout the day. So right off the bat, like I'm treating my body really well. I did something hard. And then I've followed it's called the Savers program from the book Miracle Morning for the past 12 years.
Yes.
I love that book. So I'm going to come right into my office. I start that book. It's affirmations, scribing, journaling, visualization. I have a recorded meditation that I do that's 5 minutes long from Tony Robbins. And then I'm choosing to put my brain and my mindset in a really solid spot before I've even touched my phone. And then I go to the gym. And then my rule at the gym is that the gym is a classroom. So I'm going to choose like a podcast or YouTube, like educational something on sales to get better on my skill set. Then I come home, I finish the Savers program. I have a post-workout drink that has glutamine, BCAAs, creatine. Creatine helps with focus, and it helps your brain be healthy throughout the day versus just building strong muscles. So I have that right after to help my like recovery. I come back, finish the Savers program. I'm super religious, and so I'm going to dive into my scripture study. I want to make sure like I'm aligned and good with God. And then I actually have like 40 minutes in my schedule to just go hard with my kids. If they're not up, I wake them up. Dude, I blast the music on our speaker. Like we'll wrestle. I chase them. We go in the backyard. We shoot hoops. Like I want to max because I'm so busy. So I want that first experience right out of the gate to just be like solid for them. Anyways, then I hype them up. I kind of send them off to their mom. And then I come back in the office. I call FSBOs, expireds, cancels for an hour. And then right after that, then I have what's called like time blocking throughout the day. So then for the next little bit, I'm going to time block busy stuff. So social media, follow up on emails. I'm going to look at the MLS, see like the activity. I'm going to text 5 people. That's kind of my rule from Tony Robbins. He's been my coach for a couple of years, but I want to figure out how I can impact people. So I'll just sit there and pray and who can I impact today? And I'll reach out to them and see if they need anything. And then I usually do that until like about 11:30, 12-ish. And then I have like an open slot for listing appointments, buyer showings, or previews. So something that's really helped me over the past couple of years is to go preview properties in different price points, get familiar with the neighborhoods, know my community. So I'm at the point where I do like maybe 1 a day. I used to do 4 a day my first 6 months, my first year to get familiar with the area because I was brand new here. And then about like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I'm on the doors. I'm going to be on the doors from 2:33 until 9. When I get to the doors, I'm going to have a 5-minute ritual, a video to like lock in my mindset. It's I am the one from, oh geez, what's his name? I'll remember it later, but it's called I Am the One. It's on YouTube. Look, yeah, what is it? Les Brown. Okay, Les Brown.
Les Brown.
Les Brown. I love that guy. So, and then I'm going to repeat my affirmations, and then boom, I knock for until like literally 9:30. It's pitch black outside. And what's nice is because I had a really good morning with my kids and my wife, and I was with them during lunch, I don't need to be there for dinner. So it's kind of a different way to think about it. But then I come home, I put the kids down. I have my 30-minute nightly routine of how the day went, who I impacted, what could have gone better, where am I going to knock tomorrow, what do I need for tomorrow? Because I feel like a lot of agents, they don't do that. So they'll go to bed stressed. So they wake up stressed. So decompress at night so that you can get a lot of good rest. So you wake up the next day energized and ready to go. A lot of people ask me like, how can you get 6 hours of sleep every night? It's because like I do a really good job at night at decompressing. And so that my body's ready to go to sleep really well. And then I can wake up and do it all over again. And then that's on repeat Monday through Friday. That's my schedule Monday through Friday without missing any of that. Obviously right now I've got a lot of coaching calls that messes with that schedule, but I mean, that's the career pivot that we're making. So we'll see how it works.
Certain appointments in that.
Yeah. So that window right after my busy time and the knocking, I have like a 2-3 hour gap right there for listing appointments, buyer appointments, and the previews. So I don't do any of those in the afternoon because the afternoon is locked in door knocking prime time. Like that's when everybody's coming home from work. I'm not doing appointments right there because that's when people are home. but the perfect time to do it is in the afternoon. Sometimes I'll change it and go in the afternoon and knock in the morning. It depends.
100%. How long have you been doing this routine for?
This routine on repeat for 3 years. Door knocking was pretty close when I was doing alarms for 12 years. It was a little different. But right when I got into real estate, my mentor, essentially, this is his schedule that he had. I've tweaked a few things because I saw what he was doing. I didn't love some of it, and so I would tweak it. I wanted more family time, more time with God, more time taking care of my mental health, especially after losing my dad. So I tweaked a few things over the past like year or so, but now this is the rock solid routine I have.
I want to go back a little bit to when you first started it, because again, I'm always about the making sure that people understand, it's not just as easy as it sounds, right? It sounds easy, like, hey, I just made the switch. I just decided to wake up earlier one morning and just take cold showers all of a sudden, but that's not really what took place, right? So I guess, can you go back to what was that process like in the very beginning? Go dig a little deeper there as far as, what were some of the challenges you faced? How many times did you want to quit, right? Did you fall off of that a couple times and have to come back? I'm just curious. What did that
Yeah.
look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it probably took a couple weeks to get the hang of it because it was pretty brutal, like right out of the gate. And what really helped is my mentor was at the gym at 5 o'clock. And he was up at 4:15. The guy is probably one of the most diligent, consistent people I've ever met in my life. I like to say I have that quality. I was pretty embarrassed when I met him how much better he was at it than me. So I would text him and say, "Hey, like, shoot me a text, or hey, give me a call, or tell me when you got to the gym." And then I'm not there, and now I feel bad, and so now I'm like constantly trying to tweak it. But then I realized, crap, like my nightly routine isn't good. So then I would ask him about his, and then at night I would say, "Hey, text me when you're starting your nightly routine." And so then I'd be watching sports at night, and then he would text me, and I would realize, oh, like this is I should be getting ready for bed right now. And so then I would have to like readjust my schedule. So it took some getting used to. And even over the course of the last 3 years, right? There's been when I was going through the stuff with my dad, there were days where I was missing. And I always tell people, look, I'm not perfect. Probably once every 10 days, my body just needs to recover. And I sleep in until like 7 and it feels great. But then I start my morning routine. It's just now 3 hours back. So the thing about consistency is it's not going to be this linear line, but as long as you can like be going in the right direction and moving forward, that's all that matters. Like the little tiny baby steps of progress, that's what matters because those are little manifestations that you're doing it right and that you're actually having success. So all you need to do is string those together long enough where it becomes just second nature and who you are.
And absolutely, I think a big thing for a lot of people, and even myself at times, just throwing myself there, is that it's like we always want to be perfect. For a lot of us, we want to win. We want it to be great right out the gate, right? We want to change everything. All of a sudden, start going to the gym, start eating, better, start just going to bed earlier, start waking up earlier, start taking cold showers. We want to do it all, and you miss two or three of those things, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this just doesn't work. I just can't do it, right? It's all over because we couldn't hit one or two of those things. So, my next question for you is, again, kind of going back into that process. How important would you say it is to kind of, I don't want to say ease into it, right? But like, I guess more so ease into it, not just try to flip the script right away. Or would you suggest that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there's definitely different opinions on this. I,
Of course.
I recommend everybody know ideally what it should look like. You should have it written out to a T because a confused mind will always say no, especially in sales when you're getting people to transact or buy stuff. Or even like one of my favorite books is called Switch by Darren Hardy. It's two psychologists, I think from Harvard, and it's about why change is hard for people. And it relates it back to like the emotional brain and the analytical brain. You have an elephant that's the emotional, and the analytical that's the rider on top. You have to get both together. If you have no plan, but you're super hyped and stoked, the elephant's just going to go in circles. If you have a plan and you're not stoked, then the elephant's going to sit on its rear. You need to align both of them to make progress. So I think that you should have an outline and then do your best, and then realize, hey, this might take a minute for me to get used to. But again, the bigger the why, the easier the how, right? So if the why is there, and you know that you want to change your identity to say that I am someone that has a solid morning routine for ABC reasons, then the how will become easier. Get an accountability partner. I've got coaching clients in our program right now that they literally screenshot a text of themselves having their morning routine or getting on the doors. Like, it can get pretty nitty gritty like that. But again, like, humans are here to uplift and bless others. So be humble enough to reach out and say, hey, I want to develop this, but I'm struggling. Do you mind meet me at the gym at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m.? And if you go with that vulnerability to someone that's really good at it, they're going to say yes. And if they say no, they should probably not be in your circle, because those that are really trying to uplift and encourage you are going to go out of their way to help you. So get someone that can help you, that can pull you until you can do it on your own. But then you should have the skeleton written out. That way, every day, you know, okay, hey, I did this, but I didn't do this. I did this, but I didn't do this.
That's what's up. I love it. This is gold, man. This is gold.
Yeah, 100%. You gotta be excited. I'm gonna get my morning routine. I'm gonna do everything T. I'm gonna jump in tomorrow. I'm actually gonna get up at 4 in the morning, even though it is quite late, just because of this. You have me hyped. And then obviously now you start to realize it's motivation, right? A lot of people will sit here and they're like, oh, I'm super motivated. But once that motivation falls off a cliff, that's when you have to have that discipline to really kick it in.
Not even,
Yeah, no.
not even discipline. I would say you need to have the right systems in place, right? Systems are easier to manage than emotions. So if you want to be
Or as you said
disciplined,
before, the why.
yep, the why. So if you have the systems and you have the why, then the emotions become irrelevant, because the only constant in this job is that the emotions are all over, that they're crazy. And that's the only constant in this job. So if you have the right systems, it's easier to be disciplined.
Yeah, solid. I love it. I love it. What advice would you give to a new agent after watching this and they're wanting to replicate your success? Where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, go find somebody that is proactively prospecting and that is showing up every day, because they will teach you how to hunt and fish instead of giving you the fish. Do not go buy leads. Do not focus on your COI. Like, don't do what brokerages tell you, because again, the average realtor is going to fail in his first 2 years. I remember when I signed on with my first brokerage, and the broker was like, hey, it'd be really great if you got one deal in your first 12 months. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, one deal? What the heck? What did I get it myself into? One deal? I'm used to like doing like 4, 5, 6, 7 a day in alarms, and this guy wants me to do one in a year. So don't do that. Go put yourself around someone and shadow if you have to. Reach out and call. Take people to lunch. Like, hunt down someone that you can just attach yourself to, and that it's easy for you to copy and paste what they're doing. That'd be my biggest advice.
Sure. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, this just goes back to prove that, your business only grows as much as you do. You talked about some of the books you've read. You've talked about how you've shifted, some of your routines, right? You talk about being, I guess, removing ego, right? Remembering that, your ego is not your ego kind of thing, right? And allowing yourself to become a little more vulnerable. And just being willing, to be in that position to ask for help. And I think you're 100% right. I can't. I mean, even for me at times, but for a lot of individuals, we always think that those who are crushing it don't want to talk to us. Right? We're wasting their time. We're being pests to them. But the reality is, they do want to help. It's just a matter of us, like you said, putting that ego aside and going and asking, getting that help. So, man, I want to appreciate you for just opening that up and sharing it. I'm motivated. I don't know if I can say 4 a.m., but you know what? I will say we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, right? It's one day at a time, kind of thing. But no, this is really, really solid. I love it. So I really appreciate you.
It's funny. Our audience got in thinking that they're going to learn door-to-door sales and the mastery behind that. But here we are diving into routine,
Yeah.
the mindset behind it, the nitty-gritty. This is the important stuff. They want the scripts and they want the, oh, yeah, just give me this and I'm going to go run off and have success. No, this is what's really important. It's the mindset behind it. Like you said before, the why and the systems in place. 100%. I agree. And I just want to thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks a ton again for having me. Anyone that wants to reach out, you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me. They'll have my social media stuff here present. You can reach out to me on Instagram, door to door realtor. You can find us online. I'll hop on the phone with you for free and walk you through this. At the end of the day, a high tide raises all ships. You win, I win, we win. That's all that matters. So thanks, guys, for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, man.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, no, he's awesome. That is awesome.
Now, I mean, what were some of your key takeaways?
Man, I think a lot of it, what it has to do with, again, was, I mean, I kept regurgitating it, was the why. It's all about finding that why and putting those systems in place. Because, yes, I do think that I 100% agree with you need to find someone, and it's almost like an accountability aspect. Accountability is everything. And shadow someone who is already put in those systems in place. Because, as he said before, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a waste of time almost. I mean, yeah, no, I think that's my key takeaway is it's really finding your why and then going and finding someone to shadow.
What I love so much was, so many of us want to jump into this business and we want everything to be perfect, right? We talked a little bit about outlines and how important they are. But I mean, there's lots of words that were just like hitting me. Number one was action. I mean, this dude took action. He went out there, he did it. He could sit here and say, well, let me try to figure out how to do it. But instead, he went to the people to figure out how to do it. He took the routines, he started implementing them, he started doing what it took, right? And I mean, as you mentioned, it wasn't perfect right out the gate. So many of us are so worried about what we look like or what people are going to say or how we're going to feel. And that was another key takeaway, emotions. Because Lord, we all do that, and I know I do it too. And I'm just gonna be honest, like I'm gonna be transparent, right? It is that. We let our emotions control our actions almost, right? And he talks about, what we know for a fact is that our emotions are gonna shift all over the place throughout our life. And if we don't have these systems and processes set up, right, we're bound to, I don't want to say fail, but fail, I guess, to be blunt, because that's what's leading us. It's a car that doesn't work and we're relying on it to get us to our destination. Where instead we really need a car that's solid, right? Like it has a solid head, it's built with really, really good quality. And so that was a key takeaway. As far as the routines, I don't know if I'll be trying sellers juice, but we'll see. We'll see. But no, that's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think if anything was important to his business and what made him successful, it was the celery juice. I think that's
I'm telling you.
no.
Yeah.
But 100%. No, it was great having him. I know there's a lot of value on there. And really quick, I just want to remind you guys, we have our event on January 11th. Make sure you register for that. It's going to be great. And as Jeremy said himself, accountability is everything. Finding those coaches, finding those top producers to go and shadow and replicate. You need to show up to these, watch these, hear from the best to be the best. And that's how you're going to learn the best. Don't forget, sign up for Level Up University for one-on-one coaching, group coaching, accountability, in-person events, and all the resources you need to take your business to the next level. It was great talking to you guys. Any closing remarks?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right.
Incredible. I'm still reflecting on that. On Jeremy, man.
Well, that's awesome. But yeah, peace out. Level
See
up.
y'all. Level up.